afternoon, welcome to the UK Column News. It is the 26th of March 2015 and it's just gone 1 o'clock. Myself, Louise Collins, Brian Gerrish and Nick are here in Plymouth. And today we're joined by Guy Taylor, and later on we're going to have an exclusive interview we did with Mickey Summers yesterday afternoon. So, morning.
Well, good morning, and it's a very sunny one, and we've just been told not only is it sunny in Plymouth, it's also sunny in Cornwall, and I believe there's sunshine across the rest of the country as well. And we just also say we have two mystery guests with us in the studio who are listening in and watching what's happening. Well, where are we going to start? We are going to start on the theme of the fact that law and order in Britain is breaking down. And of course, one of the key issues that is there under the surface is the abuse of children. We now know that Britain's politicians are doing everything they can to cover up the abuse of children by not only politicians, but members of the establishment. And we'd like to remind our viewers and listeners that if we want an example of what the state is prepared to do, there is no better one than the Holly Greig abuse case and the fact that Robert Green has been silenced for life, not for abusing children, but for daring to speak out and identify abusers. So let's remind ourselves, Robert Green, technically a free man, but a Scottish court has sentenced him to 250 hours of community service over 2 years, and he is gagged for life. And that gag applies wherever he might be in the world. If he dares to mention the Holly Greig abuse case or talk about any of the individuals that Holly named as abusers or talk about members of the Scottish judiciary, Robert Green can be put straight back in prison. And we say welcome to child protection lib lab SNP con style. This is the state of Britain today. The state prepared to lie and indeed use prison sentences to cover up the abuse of children. Well, of course, it's not only Robert Green that's talking about the abuse of children. Overseas countries, including Italy and Russia and Latvia and others, have been warning for some years now that the British government is involved in the abuse of children and indeed the trafficking of children for money. And we just remind you of this Guardian article here where Latvia was complaining to the UK Parliament over the system of forced adoptions. Now, we've got a heavily focused programme today on the issue not only of child abuse, but really we're talking about the complete and utter breakdown of law and order in Britain's courts. And that is probably an excellent time to bring in Guy Taylor. Of course, Guy has been carrying out excellent work exposing fraud and corruption, false documentation and criminal activity in Britain's courts. Are you there, Guy?
Yes, I am, Brian. Hi, Brian. Hi, Lou.
Hi, Guy. So what's been happening? What's the latest?
Well, we've had a very busy week. I was in Stoke Crown Court yesterday helping someone who has had an ongoing court case going on for 2.5 years. They're married to a policewoman and they've had problems with the system itself, and his wife is a whistleblower, basically. And he's had a case going on for 2.5 years, so he'd sacked his barrister and asked me to represent him at the case. So we had quite a situation. We had all these barristers in front of me that were basically, you could see the cash registers going ka-ching, ka-ching, because they kept this thing going for 2.5 years, and they want to keep it going because it's a money earner. They get a thing called a refresher every few weeks where they're allowed to refresh their memory and given a bonus to keep it going. So we had quite a scene up there. But on Monday, I had the Bodnam Manor saga. I'd asked for a mention in the courts because obviously I was arrested for trespassing our own property, and that case has to go forward in the magistrates' court. And of course, they need to use evidence from the county court to convict me in the magistrates' court. And of course, I've been trying to get my court files for a couple of years. I wasn't able to get them at that stage. So the CPS had told the police to go and get the files, and the police were unable to get the files because of one of the corrupt judges in there who I basically knew there hadn't been a court case against me. They'd been horse trading with mine and my family's estate. So since that time, I've managed to go in and get the court files. by basically pressurising the court staff to do their job. And that's all, to do their job under their own civil procedure rules, their statutory obligation. So I've had the files in the meantime, and it's clear on the files that there's no judgments and there's no warrants recorded. So I asked for a mention to go to the magistrates to explain to the judge in the criminal court that there was no evidence against me. And that was on Monday, and it was very, very interesting. I gave him the documents that show there are no warrants, no judgments, and he's a new judge. He's only just been sort of allocated to me. The old one's been retired off or whatever, I don't know. So he's new to the situation, and it was very, very good. I think we've made some serious movement with it. He said the defendant disputes the orders, so he wants to see the originals. And he said, for the avoidance of doubt, he said it 3 times, we need to see the originals. So the original court orders, which we know don't exist. And then prosecution, I said, well, I've got the title deeds. No one else but me has got the title deeds. And I showed him the land registry documents, which clearly haven't been signed. So they're not to the prescribed form. And a conveyancer has just over the phone said, well, can you change this property into this name? So what he said is that he wants the prosecution to put its position out on the reliance of title deeds. So the actual power of title deeds in the proof of ownership, which is very good. So again, we're printing ours off. We're going to put Taylor's copy across the front of it and give it to the court. Then the prosecution have got to set out where the land registry or being registered on the land registry is proof of ownership. Because the judge said that he read my interview with the police, which is quite a lengthy one, whereby I'd said that, as in cars, if you look on your logbook for your car, it says the registration is not proof of ownership. So he said, is that the case? So he said he wants the prosecution to set out exactly what the situation is with land registry and exactly what the situation is with title deeds, and to provide the original copies of the documents from the alleged court case. So we've made some serious headway with all that, and they've got to do that in 21 days.
Right. Okay. So, Guy, if the judge then calls that to get you get your property back and you win the case, what will then happen to the people who think they've bought Bodnam Manor?
Well, it's very interesting, and it's caveat emptor. I mean, ultimately, buyer beware. And I mean, realistically, we're calling in, the police officers who attended the property, why they thought they were operating lawfully in those circumstances. And of course, the chap who's bought it, he may be an innocent party. But in that case, his conveyancing solicitor certainly wasn't, because he's supposed to have signed the documents off. And of course, none of that's happened. Absolutely none of it. So he would be in a position of he's been sold stolen goods. And, and since the conference, we've been trying to help people with their court files because their lawyers won't help them with these documents. And we've got, we've been completely swamped with people, needing assistance with their court documents to establish exactly the same thing. So hopefully this can be some sort of precedent for people, and we can actually get a decision on what establishes ownership, but not through the county or the civil courts, because we know they're all, none of them are fit for purpose. Through the criminal courts, which is the only place, as far as I'm concerned, this stuff needs to go.
Agreed.
Guy, a key point there that you've just raised, that at the moment your case, which is about criminal activity in courts, the falsification of court papers, perjury, lies, etc., is simply being heard by a single judge. Is that the case? This is at the moment this whole business has not been near a criminal court, where of course we would expect a jury to be sitting.
That's right, Brian. What they've actually done is they've charged me with like a misdemeanor, really, which is under the 2012 Legal Aid and Sentences Act, trespassing in a property with intent to live there, which is a squatter's law, effectively. That means it doesn't go before a jury. It's summary only, so it only goes to a magistrate's court with a single judge, single district judge. That's the position. I mean, ultimately, I'd have rather been charged with burglary and had a jury to explain all this to. But I think the point of fact is that it all balances on the paperwork, which, again, this new judge, he has said he requires the original documents, and he said for the avoidance of doubts, and he kept repeating that, which we know they haven't got, because we've been into the court and got the court manager's the files from the court manager, even though the police weren't able to do so, and the police had been refused access to my files. So it's all going to stem on judgments in this matter, and evidence first and foremost. But I mean, I'm optimistic insofar as I know they can't produce these goods. So basically, they may as well just hold their hands up and say, under the pile of all this paperwork, as Mark Stevens and Larkin Rose say, there's a gun and you will do as you're told, because ultimately there'll be no law if that be the case.
Guy, it's an extremely interesting subject. We're shortly going to move on to the Hampstead case, where of course we've got another single judge, Judge Palfrey, who's made a decision which the national press and media regard as fact, when in fact she was sitting in her court. It was a secret court. You have a judge sitting in a court. It's effectively a secret court. Many of the judges actually talk about my court when they're running these cases. So very interesting that I think what you're saying is that the pressure of the evidence in your case, because it's so black and white, either they've got the documents which prove their case or they haven't. The force of that evidence is going to mean that judges have to act. Otherwise, it seems to me it's a little bit like the tar baby syndrome. They touch this case and they are drawn into the criminal activity if they don't do the right thing. Am I being optimistic on that, or how do you see it?
Absolutely correct. I mean, the way we look at it is because all of this, the majority of this fraud goes on in the civil or the family courts, which are operating completely independently, and none of them are fit for purpose. The point of getting involved in a criminal act to establish the evidence that is lacking in the civil court is where I'm going with it. So, and of course, the rules under the criminal procedure are far more severe than they are under the civil. In the civil realm, they're just making it up as they go along. And so what we're doing is holding them to account with their own documentation. And by being charged with a crime, which I don't advise people to do, but it was the only thing I could do, to actually make them, reel in the civil courts into the criminal world and make them prove with evidence and support the merit of their position. So that's exactly the position that I've been in. And hopefully, by going down this road, I'm able to get other people to realise that they've probably had crimes committed against them over the last perhaps 10, 15 years and be able to address it as a crime.
Yeah.
Right. Excellent. Well, Guy, we're going to move on with the rest of the news. We've got a little bit of a time constraint because we've got a very interesting video interview that we did yesterday with Mickey Summers. We'll be playing that out shortly. But stay with us on this, because what we wanted to do was just report on the Hampstead child abuse case. We're watching this with great interest because, of course, the UK column had the opportunity of speaking directly with the mother and her partner right at the beginning of the case. And so our foundation is a very good one, a factual meeting with the parents. Many others at the moment are talking about simply what they've seen and heard on the internet. But let's just remind our viewers that when UK column on the 20th of March started to ask some basic questions about what was going on, and we had a video, the sort of things we were asking were, what can we do to fight for this case? And we think a lot of this is to ask the right questions. We want to know what took place in what were a secret court. We want to know why the police coached the children when the police interviewed them. We want to know exactly what investigations the Met Police have carried out. We want to know why the judge attacked the medical report which demonstrated serious sexual abuse. We want to know why there's been no criminal court case. And we want to know why the Daily Mail and others, such as the Telegraph, have printed very damaging, sensationalist smear stories. And finally, because we were present with police officers at the time. We want to know why Met Police, who were trying to help with this case, were threatened. Now, one of the things that would sort out the fact from fiction in the Hampstead case very quickly is if the police, of course, simply brought in a number of people for questioning, and those people were physically examined for the marks and tattoos and other intimate bodily features which the children so clearly identified in their video. We have received a certain amount of abuse for saying this. However, what we were suggesting falls within the Police and Criminal Evidence Act, so let's have a look at that on screen. And here we are. Basically, if an officer of at least the rank of inspector authorises it, a person who is detained in a police station may be searched or examined, or both, for the purpose of ascertaining whether he has any mark that would tend to identify him as a person involved in the commission of an offence. So there we are. There are very clear rules about this, and of course the children in their video interview identified a number of very detailed physical marks amongst their abusers, including tattoos, warts and piercings. And therefore it is very, very easy for the Metropolitan Police to establish whether the children's accusations are correct. To our knowledge, the Metropolitan Police have absolutely failed to carry out this basic investigation. In the meantime, we've seen a massive smear campaign by British press. So let's remember the lives of these two young children at stake. The UK column has not named or identified these children. We'll continue to run with that policy. But what they were talking about was a particularly vile and systematic sexual and satanic ritual abuse by a number of individuals across the whole spectrum of the local society, including social services people, school teachers and others. Now, to join this in with Guy Taylor's comments to us that he's just made, let's have a look at the Telegraph here. This was the Telegraph smear campaign. Look at the headline: Satanic Cult Claims Dismissed by High Court Judge. Mrs. Justice Paulfleet says the claims circulating on the internet are baseless, as she describes people who seek to perpetuate them as evil or foolish after fact-finding exercise. So we're being told here that she has conducted a fact-finding exercise in her secret court. We're not dealing with the results of a full police investigation properly made known to the public. And where has the Telegraph got the story from? Well, in the bottom right-hand corner, it simply says it's an agency report. So here is one of Britain's most prestigious newspapers simply relying on internet press reports to decide what the truth is around the vicious abuse of these two young children. Well, it gets worse, because we can announce today that according to the Ham and High newspaper, the local Hampstead newspaper, police investigations have now been launched into what is now being described as a fantasy. What is this based on? Simply based on what one High Court judge has said in a closed courtroom. And where is this leading? Well, of course, we have inversion of the law, that the people who've tried to expose and help the children are now being hunted by the police. And we understand that one of the lead ladies wanted by the police, well, of course, the mother is the foremost one, but Sabine McNeill, who has reported has done most of the reporting over the internet, according to this article, is now wanted by the police. This is what Ham and High says. As a result of the judge's findings and the material published online, police have launched 2 investigations related to the case, one into allegations of harassment and another into the findings that the children had been tortured. The Ham and High has learnt that Mrs. Draper and Ms. Sabine McNeill, her legal supporter, are included on the wanted list. To which we say to our audience, it is remarkable that the mother and her partner, of course, did all of the right things in the beginning. They listened to what the children said, and then, horrified by what the children said, the mother and her partner approached both the police and social services for help. And here we are, weeks later, where the whole case has been inverted so that the mother and partner are the people at fault. Meanwhile, the Met Police has simply failed to conduct any proper investigations. And if I can just bring that slide up again, I've just underlined the judge's findings because, of course, the judge has simply carried out a probe, I think is the term in a secret court. And we're going to say again, if the case is false, why were Metropolitan Police officers threatened when they tried to assist in the case?
And also, why are they denying the fact that there is a satanic abuse department within inside the Met as well? That is now being said that there isn't one, but
well, that's a key point,
yeah.
Louise. It was Metropolitan Police officers who first informed the UK column of the existence of a satanic abuse unit within the Met Police, and indeed Met Police were the people releasing that information, and now suddenly there is no such unit. Well, at this point we will bring in Mickey Summers, an abuse victim himself, and now fighting for justice in Nottingham. Sorry, Nick, are we okay on that? Yes, okay, excellent. So the film clip should be coming up, and this was the interview we did yesterday. Good afternoon. We'll shortly be joined by Mickey Summers, child abuse survivor from Nottingham. But before we introduce Mickey on screen, let's just have a little look at what one of the UK column viewers sent to us today, talking about the BBC's reaction to child abuse. And the author of the email says this: earlier this evening, the BBC broadcast a programme called Free Speech. It was on the BBC Three channel, where the Conservative Party were being discussed with a panel of two journalists, a businesswoman and a government minister. At 8:40, a female member of the live audience was given the microphone, and that lady then asked, what are the Conservatives going to do about the abuse by social services and the child stealing that's going on in the secret courts all across the country? And the email then goes on to say the presenter directed this question at the government minister, who promptly declared he was not going to comment on individual cases, although the questioner had not asked for that, and the presenter immediately switched to another question from the audience. So we couldn't have a better example there of the BBC's reaction when people start asking penetrating questions about child abuse.
Yeah, two Tories in particular.
Tories, yeah.
Well, we've got Mickey Summers with us now, and Mickey's running as a candidate in the election, and we're going to talk about the smear campaign that's been going on against him by the former MP, the current MP of Nottingham. Mickey, are you there? How you doing?
I'm really good. Things are really starting to help us up here in Nottingham, and I couldn't be more happier. I'm sad because of Melanie Shaw, but she's a set of circumstances brought about by the very people that said they were going to go out and help her. And as far as I'm concerned, I fight for the underdog, and I will fight them tooth and nail to the bitter end. And if need be, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I'm going to stand in elections against the man that I thoroughly detest, John Collins, the elected leader of Nottingham Council. He's accountable at the end of the day. And when the whole thing blows here in Nottingham, he's going to be the one that's brought to book, because every action that's taken involving all the cover-up in Nottingham, he's the one that's going to be accountable, along with his mate, Ian Curry, the one that's dubbed the Beast of Nottingham.
Now, they're fully aware of what's gone on at Beechwood through yourself, through Melanie Shaw, and now we find Melanie Shaw back in prison again. And thank you for the support that you've been showing her, Mickey. How have they been towards you, the other candidates standing in the election?
We have whistleblowers within the council, and as far as we're concerned, the information that we get is factually correct. According to them, there was a meeting with several candidates for the local elections, and they want to run a smear campaign. They want to talk about the fact that, yes, I have a criminal past. Yes, I have untold failed relationships. Yes, I was once a football hooligan. And yes, I was once a drug addict. I take ownership of all that. I don't have a problem with it. But the thing I want to know is what's in John Collins' closet.
Yeah. Mickey, just for new viewers, could you just briefly just go into what happened to you, because you were also at Beechwood when you were younger, and then kind of setting the scene on the whole child abuse issue in Nottingham?
Yeah, I went into care basically because I was molested by a school headmaster named Peter Howitt from Welbeck School in the Meadows, and thereafter I refused to go to school. Placed into the care of the local authority because I wouldn't go to school. Placed here, there, and everywhere. Then eventually ended up at Beechwood, traumatised by events there. They used to have school teachers, headmasters, dismissed teachers that had been dismissed from the county council, reinstated to work in the city. I'll name one of them. His name was Jock Bowley. Right. He was sacked from school in Bells Lane, and we have documentary proof of that. And he went to work at my school, Welbeck. Teachers used to come into Beechwood most evenings, and we all know what went on in the cellar of Beechwood. Kids were molested, abused and raped. On one occasion, Peter Howitt came to Beechwood. He saw me and I saw him, and within days I was moved to Hazelwood. At Hazelwood, there was a young lad, I'm not going to name him, but he was about 8 years old. He had a mental age of about 2 or 3. He was regularly molested by several people that were employed by the City Council, including the manager of the children's home, Hazelwood. His name was Arthur Hunt. I have no problem in naming those people. I ran away several times from Hazelwood because of the trauma that I got from witnessing what I did. Arthur Hunt tried to molest me, and I ran away again. I was apprehended after the second runaway and taken to a police station in Nottingham, where the then Deputy Head of Social Services, Alan Smith, had me removed on false charges that were later discharged at the appeal court in Nottingham. And he had me sent down and held incommunicado down in Langport in Somerset. The significance of being held incommunicado is not dissimilar to Melanie Shaw being locked up in prison and held incommunicado.
Yeah.
It took me getting over that appeal and going to live with my grandparents from 1967 to 2003 to go to the police the first time around. The police failed to investigate, and that is still under investigation via the IPCC and the Nottingham Police Professional Standards. All of the statements from the 2003 case have disappeared. Operation Daybreak, as far as I'm concerned, is a bogus investigation around their past failures. I went to the council in 2003 and made numerous attempts to get engagement with the social services. Called them 2, 3, 4 times a week on a regular basis for about 6 weeks, and nothing ever happened. When I first came back to look at it, having turned my life around from a lifestyle of drug addiction that ended in 2003, I moved out to New York, and some of this resurfaced, and I ended up calling the Nottingham Police back and having another go. Since then, it's taken a failed interview in New York and me having to return to the UK. From having to return to the UK, it took from April the 3rd of last year to December to get an interview by any UK police officer, bearing in mind the fact that I've been involved with Operation Daybreak since July of 2013.
Yeah.
I'm banned from every council building because I raised the profile of the case. I openly accuse them of cover-up. Yeah. I have no records, no police statements, no nothing. I will carry on fighting regardless. And where they've told me that they've done extensive searches over and beyond in areas that I've searched, I've proved them to be liars because I found documentary evidence that proves they've never searched for records. Yeah. I know why my records were destroyed. in all probability, they were destroyed at the orders of the former regional director of social services, one Alan Smith. He was identified as being the boss by Crime Commissioner Paddy Tipping. Now, the City Council, they deny his existence by implication. They say they have no records beyond 1974. But the significance of 1974 is that that's the year they handed over unitary authority to the County Council, and they ran the social services right up until 1998. Yeah. Now, Mr. Tipping, he actually says that when he moved to another department, Smith was still the head of social services region for Nottingham City and the county, and he left late 76. Well, my records were destroyed shortly thereafter, and Smith moved on to another department. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out what's gone on.
No.
It was a complete paedophile ring at the core of anything connected to children. School teachers, headmasters, social workers, children's homes managers, you name it, right? The list is extensive. And I just put myself, my life on hold because I want the truth. I came into this to get my records. I could have took a financial settlement quite a long time ago. This is not about money, although in the end, because of what I've had to endure in recent times, I will take the money, but not until I've got justice.
Exactly. I mean, some of the things you just said did sound remarkably like what's been coming out via the Hampstead situation. But Mickey, well, so, you know, you say Nottingham's about to blow. Can you sort of like expand a little bit on that? In what way is it about to blow? And then I want to kind of move on to why you're standing and what you're looking to achieve by standing against the current government and MPs in Nottingham.
We have had extensive interviews going on now for the past 2.5-3 months from whistleblowers, some of them council connected, some police connected. I can't really go into the resources that are going into this.
Okay.
But when it does blow, it's not going to be a few waves like Rotherham. This is going to be a tsunami that's going to hit them. And believe me, I'm hoping and praying that I see the day that Nottingham Council collapses because they've got to go.
Yeah. Brian, anything to add?
Well, I'm going to say it's remarkable, isn't it, Mickey, that what you're seeing there in Nottingham, we've got a picture of the same thing happening in Rotherham and a bit more in the background because mainstream press are not picking up on it, but Sheffield also, some of the really good people working on the Sheffield side are saying to us, Sheffield is massive, absolutely massive. Numerous cases reported over the years to Sheffield City Council, absolutely no action taken. And of course, one of the key things that came out of that one was the fact that the political charity Common Purpose was busy getting in amongst children. Remember that Matthew Byrne up in the Merseyside area, particularly vicious paedophile, was also a Common Purpose advisory board member, selecting other people. But Common Purpose deeply involved in Sheffield, going into schools with no CRB checks. All of that's been hushed up as well. So I can imagine that you really want to see the council brought down. They need to be replaced by good people. Are you actually getting support from any of the councillors there in Nottingham? And if you're not getting support, well, tell us about that, and also who is giving you the most support? Is it just coming from the community, or perhaps there are a few police now starting to speak?
And what about the Nottingham Post? Are they being supportive?
Yeah.
Well, if people look on my Facebook page, we actually hit the political column because of a big business gathering last night. We went there to protest about it, and the thing is, John Collins, the brave fellow that he claims to be, he came with a police escort and ended up going through the back door when he saw a small group of protesters. I'm only one person, but at the end of the day, there's a few people that do get behind us, but we got a lot of credibility out of the people that attended that meeting. But a lot of the credit for raising the profile goes to that group better known as Anonymous. And There's a few political people behind us. We've got the MEP for the East Midlands, Margot Parker. The MEP for the Humberside and Yorkshire, Jane Collins. She's behind us. We did have Graham Allen behind us for a little while, but he's disappeared under the radar, I believe, ordered by the Labour Party. My constituency MP, Lillian Greenwood, all she does is pay us lip service. At the end of the day, that's all they do. We have had a few names given to us about a former Labour minister, but we're waiting to get some information on that and confirmation of his address. Once we get the confirmation of his address, we will out him. It's about outing a lot of them because we believe that Nottingham is connected to Westminster based on 4 people telling us about a certain Member of Parliament from Rushcliffe.
Yeah.
He allegedly took kids down in a minibus to Pimlico in London. Now, one of the people that came to us on the protest actually said to us that he was taken to a big block of flats behind Pimlico Station with a massive courtyard.
Dolphin Square.
Now I actually used to work around that area as a taxi driver, and that fits.
Yeah, that's Dolphin Square, 100%.
That Tory MP, he once lived there. I actually know that for fact.
Yeah.
So at the moment, Mickey, the police are simply blocking, stalling. You've said that you were able to find information that they couldn't find. And we've also got the remarkable situation where the judge who presided over Melanie's case, Judge Pert, said in court that really Operation Daybreak was a conspiracy theory. I'm beginning to wonder whether the judge is actually correct. It is a declared police operation, but what we're seeing is no real investigation by the police.
Well, as far as Nottinghamshire Police are concerned, I've always led to believe that Yvonne Dales was the head of Operation Daybreak. In fact, it's one Helen Chamberlain who you was talking about not long ago. She runs it, and I've tried to make Operation Daybreak accountable for a lot of things that has happened alongside my case, why I've been marginalised. I tried to contact her on the phone not long ago, and she terminated the call. So put a complaint in and seen by Chief Superintendent Helen Jebb. They don't want to do nothing about each other. There's no accountability, and as far as I'm concerned, Helen Chamberlain, well, she needs to take a long look at herself from when she was in Sheffield. Affairs with chief constables, who she's now married to. Well, don't try and darken my screen. You know, before you start talking about me, have the courage to talk about
look in your own backyard. Mickey, you've got a couple of people there in the background. Who are these guys? They're obviously the anonymous boys have been supporting you. And how are they getting it? How are they helping you?
Maybe you'd like to ask them.
Yeah. Okay, lads. How you doing? Welcome to the UK column.
Hello.
Hello.
Are you well?
Yeah, we're very well. What brings you to support Mickey then?
Well, we first become aware of Mickey's story and it's disgusting what's happened, and we have to realise that we have to stand together as one and oust these criminals and crooks wherever they hide.
Good. And are you local to Mickey? And have you been at the at his events outside the councils?
Yes, we attend as many as possible. We're from the Nottingham Pirates, the Anonybo Pirates.
Okay, right.
And we help Mickey where possible.
Brilliant. Oh, good for you guys. Anything to say, Brian?
Yes, I'll just say that there was some interesting information passed to me yesterday, which is effectively a networking system, which I think is called the Brain, and this is being circulated by email. So it's a computer program which enables you to plot data, link people, places, things and information together. And what appears to be happening is that just a loose group of people across the internet are now starting to work together, digging, researching about this child abuse. And I find this very interesting, and I find it exciting because, of course, if we end up with 10,000, 100,000 people all digging for information, witness statements, and indeed to meet victims of abuse, that is a very powerful search engine. And I think that is going to turn up the type of evidence we need to bring the people you'd like to bring to book, to get them into court. So we'll follow that through and report on it. But I also know that Anonymous has been doing some very good research around the Hampstead case, without getting into a witch hunt, because I think that's wrong. But there's some very clever film clips that have now gone up where people are being linked with others, and what that does is raises questions. You know, if I just give an example off the top of my head, if you have one person who is claiming that they're clean, but they're in a business relationship with another person who was convicted of child abuse, you have to start asking some questions, and we're seeing more and more of this.
Yeah. Mickey, what can people out, our viewers, do to support you? What would you like us to do to support you and what you're doing?
I'd like to create some awareness of the Nottingham CSA Inquiry Action Group. We have a guy called David Hollis, a retired Army Colonel, that's heading that as the chair. We have Nigel O'Mara from White Flowers that's alongside us. Has got a great knowledge of the terms of reference for the main CSA inquiry.
Yeah.
We have Mark Salon. We have a great layperson in Tom Crawford, the guy who's been fighting evictions.
Oh, that's fantastic that Tom's supporting you.
There's five on the panel. I stepped back because I don't want it to be about me. This is about us fighting for a full independent public inquiry. What the council want is a review, a safeguarding review. There's been crimes that have been committed outside of the abusers, acts of malfeasance and gross professional misconduct in the unlawful destruction of records and obstructions of justice. These will all be addressed by a public inquiry. A review will get us nothing. The likes of Collins and Currier, Alan Rhodes, Anthony May and Steve Edwards, they need to be looking over their shoulders, because when this tsunami hits, they're going to be brought to account. Steve Edwards, a couple of years back, told a group of protesters led by Graham Holden that he didn't believe that all my records would be gone. It just says a file was destroyed. Yet they claimed that all my records were destroyed. But we know about the other corrupt practices that they had by having a member of the council go through my chronology to make sure that everything was deleted. A whistleblower told me about that, but I was too late when I contacted Operation Daybreak. And Operation Daybreak, when I told them, the whistleblower had informed me that they would destroy my records. Right. He said, we've heard whistleblowers all along, we don't take no notice of them. Well, when we get this up and running for an inquiry, believe me, your whistleblowers, our whistleblowers, and everyone's whistleblowers, we're all going to be heard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mickey, just one more question, if we may. We started out by pointing out that the BBC once again was deflecting when people are questioning on the issue of child abuse. I've heard you say before that you are getting some support from the BBC in Nottingham. Is that still the case, or is BBC Nottingham also shy of this subject?
We've had a couple of brilliant reports from Jeremy Ball, their political correspondent, and we've not had nothing much, but I have had a few telephone calls for him trying to get updates. So I wouldn't say they've been as proactive as, say, the Nottingham Post or the newspaper from Mansfield, the Mansfield Chad, but he's trying to keep his finger on the pulse of it. He is aware of everything that's going on. He had a camera crew at the event last night in Nottingham, which we made a lot of noise at. And the guy that did that, he said that he was going to make sure that Jeremy Ball was fully aware of what was going on. But we need to bang on about the Nottingham CSA Inquiry Action Group. You can feel free to put my telephone number out, Lou, and Anyone who wants to come forward, feel free to come forward. Any whistleblowers that want to come to us, your identity will be protected. There's protection in law to protect you, but we will protect you even more. Any other survivors, and we put emphasis on Skegby Hall, because what the Nottinghamshire Police have done, at the direction of Collins and Co, is they've separated Skegby Hall from all of the others because of the amount of victims. And the reason for that is there's over 150 from, say, Beechwood and Skegby Hall. You combine that's 300. But if you run it as 2 investigations, it looks like a very small number in comparison. And that is what they do. They have a corrupt strategic partnership of Nottingham Police in the middle and the County Council and the City Council either side. And until we break that strategic partnership, we ain't getting nowhere without a full, independent, survivors-led public inquiry.
Okay, Mickey, well, we'll get your number up. We'll get your mobile number up on screen, and then, as Mickey says, any victim survivors out there, your identities will be kept secret. Mickey will treat all your information with the strictest confidence. So the number will be coming up very shortly.
We can bring up the Facebook page.
Yeah, Mickey's Facebook page as well.
We should have the right one, Mickey. Is this is
one.
Right? Okay. So people can get a lot of information from your Facebook page. Just to finish, what is the actual platform that you're standing? You're standing as a council candidate. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And what is the actual platform that you're standing on? Independent, anti-corruption? What are you going for?
We're actually standing about local regeneration, education, all the things that Nottingham Council have promised the people of St Anne's in Nottingham. I couldn't go for Labour because Labour is the ruling party in the City Council. They run the executive body, as they do in the County Council. No one will vote Tory, Lib Dem or Greens in Nottingham, so my only other choice was to stand for UKIP because I do not have the financial resources to stand as a fully independent. If I had the financial resources that I hadn't already exhausted, I would stand as an independent. But there's several people from UKIP that I've known as friends for many, many years who were once Tories, Labour Party, you name it, they belong there. Right? They've shifted their allegiances. They've been behind me since I started this campaign, and I'm loyal to everyone. Those that have stood by me, well, I'm going to stand by them. And God willing, we may just take Nottingham City Council down.
Let's hope so.
Okay.
That's great, Mickey. We'll get you on my radio show as well real soon as well before it all kicks off. That'd be good.
Mickey, thanks very much for joining us. Very good report. We will stay with you on this one. And I think the thing which we're finding encouraging is it's obvious the truth is coming to the surface across the country, but there's going to be some horrified members of the public when they finally realise not only what's been done to children, but the scale of it. And of course, the famous names involved, not just celebrities at the moment, but senior police officers, members of parliament, judges, lords, etc. They're all in it. Okay.
Thanks so much, Mickey.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Very brave Mickey Summers there. Guy, just very briefly, because we're running out of time, have you got any comments on what you've just heard Mickey saying?
Well, I think that the paedophilia is one of the dots that needed joining up to everything else, and I think that it's pursuing for, because nobody's going to have their children messed with. People put up with a lot of things. That's one thing they're not going to put up with, and I think it's one of the key elements of what's going on, and I think it's one of the wonderful things that you're exposing that's joining the dots for everybody. So, what more can we say on this subject? And as far as the Hampstead thing, listen, we can solve this in 15 minutes. Just get the guys in a room and take their trousers down, innit?
Exactly.
It's not hard, is it? It's not hard.
Exactly. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, Guy.
Go.
Right, moving on, which is quite relevant. We're talking about this great article from the Domestic Extremists, and he's been looking into the Serious Crime Bill, a new clause on the Official Secrets Act of 1989, and it's about the defence of disclosure into historic sexual abuse, child abuse. Basically, what the bill's saying, that for politicians to vote to relax the laws to allow police officers to come forward with information they may have and not end up being charged under the Official Secrets Act. So the new clause would be put in after Section 8, and it reads that the proposed new clause rejected in this vote was it is a defence for a person charged with an offence under any provisions of this Act to prove that he knew or had reasonable cause to believe that the information, document or article disclosure was germane to an official investigation of or inquiry into historic child abuse and provided only to an officer of such an investigation or inquiry. So it's basically relaxing the laws for the police officers to come forward with information they had and not be charged under the Official Secrets Act. Now, you would expect that most politicians who cared about children would vote for this new clause, but amazingly, it was rejected, and you can actually go and find out if what your own politician in your area has voted. And if you go to the Public Whip and put in Serious Crime Bill, new clause 2, Official Secrets Act 1989, you will be able to see how your MP voted on this clause.
We'll just add that local Conservative MP Gary Streeter, of course, voted to make it more difficult for information about child abuse to come to the surface. And we should remember, of course, Gary Streeter is chairman of the Conservative Christian Association. Excuse me.
Sarah Wollaston, though, she also voted against it, and I gave her office a call today and invited her on the show. So,
to talk about it.
To talk about it.
Excellent. Chief Constables.
Yeah, Sir Peter Fay, Manchester's Chief Constable, was speaking at the AGM of Manchester's National Association of Retired Police Officers when he was asked about historic sexual abuse cases and the threatening of officers over being charged under the Official Secrets Act if they came forward with information. Mr Fay replied that the Act did not apply in such circumstances like these and probably never did, and there was no question of the Act being used now against them. And he went on to talk about conspiracy theories and the need to investigate all complaints to stop any myths and the encouragement of anyone with info to step forward.
So we're seeing this constant theme of not investigations but probes, and anybody who dares challenge the official government view is a conspiracy theorist. We're going to be sticking on this subject over the coming week and exposing who's driving this perverted agenda. And the last one, I think this
Harvey
will have to be...
Proctor, former Tory MP for Billericay, has quit his job as private secretary to the Duke and Duchess of Rutland with immediate effect. Proctor, who quit politics after being involved with a sex scandal involving male prostitutes, he pleaded guilty at that scandal to acts of gross indecency. He claimed at the time he knew nothing about a VIP paedophile ring during the 70s and 80s or about allegations of 3 boys who were murdered. Earlier this month, Proctor's home was searched by Operation Midland that was investigating Dolphin Square and the abuse of young boys and murders of young boys by MPs, judiciary and senior military. And here is the place where the luxurious castle where he was the private secretary. They don't know if he's still going to be able to keep his house on the estate as of yet.
But all conspiracy theory, according to the British government. Well, we're going to end it there. Thank you very much for joining us today. We still say that if we want to get our country back into its normal condition of some honesty, trust, decency, law and order, we need to out the people who are so criminal and corrupt they are prepared to abuse children and then cover up that abuse. And we say once again, of course, the abusers do exist both in the Westminster circles and the establishment. That's it. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye-bye.